a few requests for my laksa recipe, so I decided to do a video instead of writing it out because it's a bit more easy to follow. You need some palm sugar. This brand comes in a little block like that. They all come with little blocks. I'll explain how to use that later. Some chicken tenderloins or thigh fillet. I'm using tenderloins tonight. Normally I'd use thigh. Some fish sauce. Vietnamese fish sauce is the best. Some coconut cream. Shallot, fried shallots. Laksa paste. This is the one I recommend. This is probably the best that I've found so far. Very nice. Some lime juice, coriander, shallots, and rice noodles. You can use vermicelli noodles, which take about 2 minutes to cook. Slightly bigger ones that take about 4 to 6 minutes. And if you like the thicker ones, you can use the pad thai type, which take about 9 minutes to cook. You'll also need some chicken stock. You can use the stuff that I'm making here, which is real stock, or you can use powdered chicken stock. It doesn't really matter. Okay, with coriander, use the top of it for a garnish at the end. That's the best thing to use it for. You need the coriander root, which is this section here, for the actual cooking of the laksa. And you just want to chop that off and really finely slice it so it's nice and fine. You don't need to go too crazy with it. That's probably fine. And obviously you want to cut all your greens and vegetables before you chop any chicken on the chopping board. Okay, with your shallot, you want to do the same thing as you do with the coriander root. You want to slice it really finely. And then just go over the top of it like this, so it's roughly chopped. You don't need to get it really finely done. As long as it's roughly chopped up, that should be fine. And with your shallots, it doesn't really matter how you cut them. You can cut them diagonally like this so they look nice and pretty, or you can really finely chop them like I chop the other stuff. And I prefer it this way. I prefer them really finely chopped to sprinkle over the top as a garnish at the end, but you can cut them any way you like. And the white and light green parts are the most fragrant and the strongest, so they're the parts I usually try and use. But because this is just a garnish, it's okay to go about halfway up the shallots. Just cut them up, make them nice and fine, and they look really good sprinkled over the top. Okay, with your chicken, I'm using tenderloins. There is a sinew that runs all the way through the middle of them, and you want to get rid of any blood spots as well, because that's not good. You can muck around running down the center to get the sinew out, but it's a pain in the backside, so I generally don't worry about it. And we just want little chunks of chicken, cubed about that size. And once we've got all that, we can start actually cooking the laksa. Okay, we've got all our chicken cut up, and another very important part of the whole cooking process is for the cook to enjoy themselves. Excuse me. Yummy. Okay, this is something you can do at any stage, but obviously before you start cooking the laksa, with your palm sugar, which is this one here. I'm not sponsored by these guys anyway. It comes in a block that's quite hard, so you need to drop it into some sort of measuring cup or anything you like, and cover it with boiling water, only just enough to cover it. So there, we've got that covered, and that'll soak in the boiling water. You probably want to leave it for about 2 or 3 minutes before you break it up with a fork and stir it around a bit to dissolve it. It doesn't matter if it doesn't dissolve entirely, that's fine. It'll dissolve as it's cooking, but as dissolved as you can possibly get it before you start the laksa, the better. Okay, to start cooking the laksa, you want a little bit of oil, not too much. Probably about 2 tablespoons is enough. You can use rice bran oil. You can use any oil you like, but the best oil to use for most Asian cooking is peanut oil, because it's got a nice flavour, and you can cook it at high temperatures with it. So once we've got our oil in, the pan's already pretty warm. It's on a low heat. We'll just add the rest of our ingredients now. So the first thing into a pan when it's still on a low heat, you don't want this hot, is our chopped coriander root and shallots. So that can go in. You can also add garlic if you want at this stage, but you don't really need it because the laksa paste has got garlic already in it. Just stir it around for probably a minute or so until you start to smell it, until it starts to get very fragrant. And there's not a lot of coriander root in this. I usually add a little bit more, but this will be fine. So once your aromatics have started to smell really nice, and you can smell them strongly, then you add your chicken, and we're going to turn the heat up. And we're just going to let this sit in there for probably 2 or 3 minutes until it starts to brown up a little bit. And we'll give it a stir in a couple of minutes when one side's browned up. Okay, it's been a couple of minutes, so we'll give it another stir. And just mix it around a bit so we get the other side brown. You can use a wok instead of a big pot for this, it doesn't really matter, but I find for the volume of liquid that this takes, a pot is just fine. Okay, I couldn't show you me putting it in, but I've put the entire packet of this Dolly brand, D-O-L-L-E-E Laksa Paste, which is terribly out of focus, but doesn't matter, into the pan. There you go, that's better. And you can see the chicken's not fully cooked yet, but that's okay because you'll want to mix this around and get the chicken all coated with the laksa paste. And then once it's coated, we're going to leave it sit for a minute or two, because even though you've got some aromatic smells already, the laksa paste will also start to give off the fragrance, and we want that to develop for just a couple of minutes. And then we can add the rest of our stuff. Okay, so that's looking pretty good now. Now we have 2 cups of chicken stock. Like I said before, you can make your own, or you can use the powdered stuff. It doesn't matter. So I'll pour that in there. I'll also add another 2 cups, so 4 cups of chicken stock, and this will serve probably 6 to 8 people. Okay, our chicken stock's now in. It's looking pretty good. That colour that you get in a laksa is starting to develop. You can see how this sort of works. You don't need to leave the chicken stock in there for any period of time before you add your next ingredient, which is the coconut milk, and we'll do that next. Okay, 1 can of coconut milk's already gone in, and adding the second now. So we only want 2 cans. If you want it a little bit creamier and a little bit more coconut, you can add a 3rd or a 4th can if you want. And now you can see that amazing colour of the laksa start to develop. We're going to leave that simmer on a medium heat for probably 5 minutes or so before we continue with the rest. Another couple of little things you can add is a pinch of turmeric, and by a pinch I mean just a pinch, you don't want too much. That helps add to the colour. And the other thing is some chili oil. It doesn't matter what type it is, preferably not Szechuan chili oil because it's very strong. Just a little bit of a dribble. That just helps add some colour and it makes it look a lot nicer. Okay, because I've added 4 cups of water and 3 cans of coconut milk, it's still looking a little bit not as creamy as I'd like it, so I'm going to put another can of coconut milk in there. The ratio normally would be 2 cups of chicken stock and 2 cans of coconut milk. But I've put in 4 cups and 2 cans, so I'll put a 3rd one in. Okay, so another can of coconut milk. Some of these cans of coconut milk, it seems like the milk and the cream component of the coconut is separated a little bit. If that's the case, just give it a stir in a can beforehand and then just stir it around in here, and it'll definitely break up as it cooks. Okay, while that's simmering away, get some hot water on, get ready to put your noodles in. Okay, we don't put the noodles in until the water's actually boiling, and for these, it's just started to boil now. For these noodles, it's going to take about 4 minutes to cook. Now my pot's not big enough for all this, so I'll put that in there, and it quickly moves down because it's the nice boiling water. And it won't take long, and I'll be able to push all of that into the pot. Ideally, it would be better suited to using one big pot instead of trying to stick it into a small one, but I don't have another one spare at the moment, so I'll have to make do. So like I said, this has only been in there about 40 seconds or so. I can now push all those noodles down into there so that they're all in the water, and we're going to give this about 4 minutes, and then we're going to test it to make sure that it's cooked through. One thing you need to make sure of is once the noodles are in and the water's boiling, give them a stir every couple of minutes, just so it helps them not stick together when you take them out. Okay, while our noodles are happening over there and our laksa's still simmering away, this is the palm sugar mixture that I made from before. So one of those cubes covered in a measuring cup gives you 100 mils of this palm sugar liquid or syrup, and that just goes straight in. Okay, with this fish sauce, for this amount, which is 4 cups of chicken stock and 3 cans of coconut milk, I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of the Vietnamese fish sauce, which is made with anchovies, whereas the Thai is made with sardines. So this is milder and it's got a nicer flavour. Okay, now I've added 2 tablespoons of lime juice. Now with the fish sauce and with the lime juice, taste it, and you can add more fish sauce or more lime juice according to your taste. A laksa should be spicy, sweet and salty and a little bit sour, and those flavours should all balance each other out. Our noodles are now really on the boil, so we need to make sure that every couple of minutes we just give them a stir around, move them around so they don't stick together. Okay, now it's time, once we've added all of that stuff in, to have a bit of a taste test and see where we're up to. Yep, that's pretty good. I like the sour a little more, so I'm probably going to add just another tablespoon of lime juice and give it another stir, and that's pretty much the laksa component of our recipe done. We've just got to wait for the noodles. So the noodles are still going. It's probably been about 5 minutes now. These ones are taking a little bit longer than I expected. The most important part with cooking the noodles is to follow the instructions on the packet pretty much. Some people say to soak the noodles first in cold water for an hour and all that sort of mucking around, but just boil the water, drop them in at least 4 minutes, maybe up to 9 minutes depending on the noodle. But every probably 2 minutes, just pick a little tiny bit up, break it off and test it to see if it's ready. Just a really quick note on this while we're waiting for everything to finish. The Laksa Paste is gluten-free. However, it does contain MSG, so you have a sensitivity to MSG. You probably want to avoid pretty much all Laksa Paste because they've all got it in there. Also, if you are allergic to shellfish, this has shrimp paste in it. So anyone who's allergic to shellfish would want to probably avoid all Laksa Pastes as well, because they pretty much, the main basis is shrimp paste as well as galangal, ginger, turmeric and all that other. Okay, another important part of the process is once your noodles are cooked, and I might just grab a tea towel because that handle's really hot. You need to drop them into a colander, and they're sticking in there, I don't know why, so I'll put that back over here somewhere. Now cold water. You've got to rinse these in cold water, and this will stop them from cooking because you don't want them to continue to cook between now and when you're serving up the rest of the laksa, because they might go a bit mushy. They've got to have a bit of body and a bit of firmness to them, but they still need to be soft. Just think of, it's the same sort of consistency that you want when you cook spaghetti. To get the cold water down, you'll need to turn them a bit with your hands. Just be careful because it has come out of boiling water, and down the bottom of the noodles it still could be a little bit hot. Okay, so once they're rinsed in cold water, they've stopped cooking, we can just leave them to drain for a few minutes, and then we prepare the rest of our ingredients for serving. Okay, once your noodles have been rinsed, you then evenly distribute them into bowls. Grab some laksa, make sure you've got some chicken in there as well. Some people say, oh, this is not correct because you put the chicken on first and then you pour the soup over the top, but you know what, it doesn't really matter. Get a bit more chicken, a bit more soup over the top, and try and get some of that stuff off the top that's got that beautiful rich colour. That goes on there like that. And now to finish it off, normally you'd put a nice big handful of bean sprouts right on the top, but I don't have any bean sprouts, so all I'm going to do is finish this off with some shallots, some coriander, and some fried shallot, which is just shallots that have been deep fried. Just sprinkle that over the top, and you're ready to